Most people in their 60s still believe that having a single glass of wine or beer in the evening is harmless, even good for the heart. But what if I told you that the very drink you think is helping you relax may be the quiet reason your heart is aging faster than the rest of your body? Imagine this. Your heart, the very engine that has kept you alive for over 6 decades, now begins to beat off rhythm, struggling to keep pace. You don't feel it at first. No sharp pain, no warning sign. Just a little more fatigue each morning, a little more pressure behind your eyes. And by the time it shows up clearly, it may already be too late. I've spent the last 30 years sitting across from patients who walked into my clinic smiling, convinced they were doing everything right. They ate their vegetables, stayed active, took their medications, and yes, many of them had a small drink every evening to unwind or celebrate life. But here's the pattern I saw again and again: high blood pressure without cause, irregular heartbeat in people with no family history, early signs of heart failure in those who never smoked, never overate, never ignored their health. When I asked about alcohol, they would shrug and say, "Just a glass of red wine. It's good for the heart, right?" The truth is more complicated and more sobering. After the age of 60, your heart is no longer the same machine it once was. It becomes less flexible, more sensitive to shifts in pressure, and slower to recover from stress. Alcohol, even in small daily amounts, acts like a drip of oil on a sensitive electrical circuit. At first, nothing seems wrong. But over time, the damage accumulates. The wiring gets erratic. The system begins to misfire. Your blood pressure inches upward. Your heart muscle weakens. And you start experiencing symptoms that are easy to blame on age, when in fact, it's the drink. And it's not just about how much you drink. It's about how often. Frequency is the enemy most people ignore. Daily drinking, even in modest amounts, disrupts the heart's rhythm and affects how your liver and kidneys process medications. That's why, in this video, I'm not here to shame you. I'm here to help you see the truth about 5 types of drinks that are silently aging your heart. And the first one might be sitting right next to you as we speak. I can't tell you how many times I've heard this sentence in my clinic. "But doctor, it's just red wine. I thought it was good for the heart." And I get it. The headlines, the commercials, even some doctors used to say the same. 1 glass a night, they claimed, could protect your arteries. But what if I told you that for most people over 60, that comforting glass is doing the opposite? That it's not guarding your heart, it's quietly wearing it down, 1 sip at a time. There's something deeply elegant about red wine. It feels sophisticated, safe, even medicinal. A ritual that adds a touch of grace to dinner or helps soften the edges of a long day. I've had patients who look at their glass the way others look at prayer, as something sacred. But after treating thousands of seniors, I've come to see red wine not as a gentle companion, but as a subtle threat, especially when it becomes a nightly habit. Here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. After 60, your body doesn't metabolize alcohol the way it used to. The liver slows down. The heart becomes more vulnerable to shifts in pressure and rhythm. What once felt like a mild relaxant now acts like sand in a machine, already showing signs of wear. That nightly glass, even just 1, can gradually push your blood pressure up, weaken the heart muscle, and disrupt the delicate electrical signals that keep it beating evenly. I've sat with men and women who never missed a checkup, who exercised regularly and ate well. But when the test results came in, they were stunned. Elevated blood pressure, silent atrial fibrillation, signs of diastolic dysfunction, all from something they thought was helping them. And it wasn't just the wine. It was the routine, the repetition, the idea that because it was only 1 glass, it didn't count. What's more troubling is how wine, especially at night, interferes with sleep. It makes you drowsy, yes, but it fragments the deep stages of rest your body needs to heal. You wake more tired than before, with cortisol levels elevated, stress hormones surging quietly through your veins. And if you're on blood pressure medication, diabetes pills, or statins, alcohol can interfere with how they work, sometimes nullifying their benefit completely. It's like taking 2 steps forward and 3 steps back every single night. I'm not saying you can't enjoy your life. I'm saying your heart has been loyal to you for decades, and it deserves better than outdated advice and glossy magazine promises. If you've been clinging to that glass in the name of wellness, maybe it's time to rethink what wellness really means. And if you think red wine is the only drink with a hidden edge, wait until you hear what I have to say about something even more common. The drink that looks harmless, even refreshing, but quietly chips away at your heart from the inside. Let's talk about that next. Beer often gets a free pass. It doesn't hit hard like whiskey, doesn't sparkle like cocktails, and certainly doesn't carry the heart health halo that wine enjoys. It's just to beer. Casual, friendly, refreshing. But what if I told you that the very thing that makes beer feel harmless, its lightness, its ease, is exactly what makes it dangerous for your aging heart? I've met countless seniors who reach for a cold beer after mowing the lawn or with dinner while watching the evening news. It feels like a simple pleasure, a quiet reward. But what many don't realize is that beer carries its own silent risks. Risks that don't shout, but whisper over time until your heart begins to struggle to keep up. Unlike spirits or wine, beer sneaks in with sugars and starches that quickly turn into visceral fat, the kind that wraps around your internal organs and inflames your blood vessels from within. And as we age, our metabolism slows down. That means every sip of beer hits differently after 60. It doesn't just settle in your belly, it lingers in your system, raising triglycerides, thickening your blood, and pushing your blood pressure higher day by day. Even just 1 or 2 beers daily can nudge your body toward hypertension or irregular heart rhythms that don't show symptoms until they do. It's not about drunkenness, it's about accumulation. Quiet damage building like rust inside a machine that still looks fine on the outside. I remember one man, 71, sharp as ever, walked daily, stayed active, but when he came in for a routine checkup, his blood pressure was off the charts. We dug deeper. No smoking, no processed food, but 2 light beers each night, like clockwork. That, combined with mild dehydration, was enough to tip the scale. You see, beer doesn't hydrate. In fact, it pulls water from your body, leaving your blood thicker, harder to pump, and more likely to form clots. For an aging heart, that's like running a marathon in mud. I'm not here to tell you to throw away everything you enjoy. I'm here to help you protect the very thing that's kept you alive through every season of your life. Your heart needs more water, not more beer. Replacing even 1 nightly bottle with a tall glass of cold water or herbal tea can be the quiet shift that changes everything. It's not about quitting. It's about choosing better one evening at a time. But if you think beer is the only sweet-tasting drink that's quietly working against your heart, think again. There's another one dressed in sugar, served with a smile, and far more deceptive than it looks. That's where we're heading next. It looks like a celebration in a glass bright colors, little umbrellas, a sweet scent that reminds you of vacations and laughter. But what if I told you that this cheerful drink might be one of the most dangerous things you could offer your aging heart? Cocktails are like wolves in designer clothing, charming on the outside, but hiding a mix that can tear into your cardiovascular health without a sound. There's something festive about cocktails. They carry a sense of occasion, of reward. I've seen so many older adults pour one not out of addiction, but nostalgia for parties gone by, for dinners with friends, for quieter evenings that deserve a touch of sweetness. But here's the danger. That sweetness isn't innocent. Behind every flavored liquor, syrup, or splash of cream lies a blend of sugar and alcohol that your heart is far less equipped to handle after 60. As we age, our insulin response weakens, our arteries lose flexibility, and our body becomes more prone to inflammation. Cocktails, with their high sugar load, trigger insulin spikes and fat storage that directly impact the heart. They also cause triglyceride levels to soar, and those fats don't just float around harmlessly. They clog, inflame, and harden the arteries that feed your most vital organ. Worse still, the sweetness masks the burn of the alcohol. You drink faster, you drink more, and you don't realize the toll until it's already in motion. I remember a woman, 66, vibrant, widowed, and finally starting to enjoy life again after a decade of caregiving. She started attending small dinner parties, and cocktails became her comfort. "It makes me feel like I'm part of the group," she told me, smiling. But her heart didn't smile back. Atrial fibrillation crept in, first unnoticed, then undeniable. The very drink that helped her feel alive was quietly pushing her heart into chaos. And the scariest part? She never felt drunk. That's what made it so dangerous. This isn't about shame. It's about awareness. Your heart isn't judging your fun, it's just asking for protection. If you enjoy the ceremony of a cocktail, there are safer ways to honor that ritual. Sparkling water with lime and mint, herbal infusions with a touch of honey. You don't have to give up joy. You just have to stop mistaking sweetness for safety. Because the next drink on our list doesn't even try to hide. It's clear, it's simple, and it hits fast far harder than most seniors expect. If cocktails are sweet deception, then what comes next is brutal honesty. Let's talk about the hard stuff. It's quiet, it's clear, and it goes down fast. That's what makes hard liquor feel honest. A small glass of whiskey, a splash of brandy, just enough to take the edge off a long day. But what if I told you that the quiet comfort of that nightcap may be quietly training your heart to fail? There's a kind of dignity in hard liquor. It doesn't pretend to be sweet. It doesn't come with fruit or fizz. It just sits in your hand steady, simple, familiar. For many older adults, it's more than a drink. It's a memory, a symbol of resilience, a ritual that connects them to who they once were, or who they hope to become. But as a physician who's spent decades listening to hearts both metaphorically and literally, I've learned something hard to say, but necessary to hear. That small pour now carries far more weight than it once did. You see, after 60, the body doesn't buffer alcohol the way it used to. The liver processes it more slowly. Blood vessels lose their flexibility. And that harmless sip can trigger rapid spikes in blood pressure, sometimes within minutes. The heart responds by beating harder, less evenly, and under more strain. Think of it like asking a worn rubber band to stretch as far and fast as it did when it was new. Eventually, something snaps. I remember a retired firefighter who used to drink 1 shot of whiskey before bed every night. "It helps me sleep," he said. But what he didn't see was how his blood pressure would spike each night, how his medication began losing its effect, how one morning he woke up dizzy and didn't understand why. The drink didn't make him feel drunk. That's the trap. It made him feel calm. But inside, his heart was working overtime. Worse still, these drinks are often taken alone, in silence. That ritual before bed, meant to soothe loneliness, becomes a hidden trigger for cardiac stress. And if you're taking medication for blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol, hard liquor doesn't play nice. It interferes in unpredictable ways, dulling the very protection those drugs are meant to offer. I'm not saying your strength is fading. I'm saying your body needs a new kind of strength now. One that begins with awareness, not defiance. Because there's one more habit I see often. It's subtle. It's quiet. And it comes from a place of longing for rest. A drink to sleep. A way to escape the noise inside our heads. But what if that drink is the very reason you wake up exhausted, again and again? Let's talk about that next. You lie in bed, eyes closed, but your mind keeps wandering. The silence feels too loud. The clock ticks louder than your heartbeat. And then, you reach for the one thing that seems to work: a small drink to calm the nerves, to quiet the chatter, to finally drift into sleep. But what if that nightcap isn't giving your heart rest at all? What if it's stealing the very thing you're longing for: real, healing sleep? I've met so many older adults who've said the same words: "It's the only thing that helps me fall asleep." I don't doubt it. Alcohol does help you feel drowsy. That's why it's tempting. It's familiar, fast, and feels effective. But here's the truth: that doesn't show up on the bottle. Alcohol may help you fall asleep faster, but it keeps you from sleeping well. The sleep you get after a drink is like drifting on a shallow river. You float, but you never sink into the deep. Alcohol interrupts REM, the stage of sleep when the heart recovers, when blood pressure stabilizes, when the brain clears away toxins. Instead, your heart races quietly through the night. Your breathing becomes uneven. Your stress hormones spike. And in the morning, you don't feel refreshed. You feel drained, sometimes anxious, with a heartbeat that doesn't quite settle. One of my patients, a retired librarian, started using wine to help her sleep after her husband passed away. At first, it was a half glass, then one, then 1.5. She said it made her feel safe, like closing the door on a restless world. But her heart began to show signs of strain. She woke up sweating. Her blood pressure readings crept higher. She blamed it on stress. It wasn't stress. It was the wine. And she never connected the dots until she collapsed from fatigue during a walk. What starts as a sleep aid can quickly become a dependency. Your body builds tolerance. You need more to feel the same effect. Meanwhile, your heart gets weaker. Your recovery during sleep, the one time your body is meant to heal, gets sabotaged night after night. But there are other ways. Gentle ones. True ones. Herbal teas like chamomile or valerian. Calming music. A dim light an hour before bed. Even just turning off screens early and stepping outside for 10 minutes of evening air. They may not knock you out, but they support the rhythm your body needs to truly rest. Because real sleep isn't just about closing your eyes. It's about giving your heart, the engine that's carried you through every joy and every sorrow, a chance to finally exhale. And if that drink before bed has been your secret comfort, maybe it's time to ask what your heart truly needs tonight. You've heard me talk about red wine, beer, cocktails, hard liquor, and the quiet ritual of drinking to sleep. And maybe, somewhere in those words, you recognized a piece of your own routine, a small habit, a glass that felt harmless, even comforting. But now you know what I've seen. I've seen hearts that looked healthy on the outside, struggling on the inside. I've seen test results that told a story patients couldn't feel, not yet. Because alcohol doesn't knock loudly in your 60s. It whispers. It builds. Until the day it doesn't whisper anymore. But here's the part I need you to hear. Louder than anything else I've said. Your heart is still capable of healing. Even now. Even after decades of routine. It doesn't need you to be perfect. It needs you to notice, to care, to choose just one thing differently, starting tonight. Maybe it's skipping that evening drink. Maybe it's swapping it for water. Maybe it's finally asking your doctor if your medications and habits are still working for the body you have now. Not the one you had 20 years ago. Your body, your heart is not broken. It's asking for help. It's been carrying you through every chapter of your life. Every joy, every grief, every late-night worry, and early morning hope. And now, it's asking you to carry it back, not with fear, not with guilt, but with love. One small choice at a time. If this video stirred something in you, a memory, a question, a commitment, I want to hear it. What's one thing you're thinking of doing differently after watching this? Drop it in the comments. Not for me, for the community. Because the moment we speak it out loud, we begin to live it. And if you haven't already, subscribe so you never miss another truth your heart deserves to know. This isn't about restriction. It's about freedom. The kind that starts from the inside out with a heart that's not just beating, but thriving.